The ocean was calm, but something about the silence felt wrong. The sky above was gray, and a thick fog rolled across the water like a slow-moving wall. Dr. Aaron stood at the edge of the small research ship Marina, staring at the dark waves. He had spent years studying extinct animals, but this mission felt different, almost cursed. The island they were looking for did not appear on modern maps. It was called Kala, an island mentioned only in old journals and sailor stories. Some said it sank long ago. Others said it was erased and hidden by time itself. But Aaron had found proof that it might still exist. In his hands, he held an old leather book, the journal of a 19th-century explorer named Captain Roland Gray. The pages were yellow and smelled of salt and dust. One sentence was underlined many times. Creatures that time erased but memory could not forget. Beside him stood Maya, the team's oceanographer. She was young, smart, and always calm, but even she looked uneasy. "Do you think the stories are real?" she asked. Aaron closed the book slowly. "I think stories start from truth," he replied. "We're here to find that truth." The captain of the ship, an old man named Briggs, walked over. "We'll reach the coordinates in 20 minutes, he said. "But the fog's getting thicker. My radar's acting strange. Be ready." The crew of 6 people moved around the deck, checking cameras and sonar equipment. The atmosphere grew heavy. The ocean seemed endless, black and watching. As the ship entered the fog, the temperature dropped. Everyone could feel it, a cold that didn't feel natural. The sound of the waves faded, replaced by a deep, hollow echo beneath the boat. Suddenly, the sonar screen beeped. Beep, beep, beep. Maya looked at the monitor. A massive shape was moving under them, slow but huge. "It's not a rock formation," she whispered. Aaron leaned closer. The size on the screen was impossible. "It's moving," he said quietly. The crew ran to the sides of the ship, staring down into the fog-covered water. They couldn't see anything, only dark ripples spreading across the surface. Then, something brushed against the bottom of the boat, hard enough to make the metal groan. Briggs shouted, "Hold steady!" A second later, a giant shadow passed beneath them, longer than the entire ship. The crew froze. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then the shadow vanished into the deep again. The ocean became silent. "What was that?" Maya whispered. Aaron's voice shook. Something that shouldn't exist anymore. They dropped a sonar camera into the water. The image that came back was blurry, but the outline looked like an enormous reptile, a creature with long fins and sharp jaws. "Maybe it's a glitch," one of the crew members said. But Aaron's heart told him it wasn't. The shape matched the description of a creature long extinct, a mosasaur, a sea predator from millions of years ago. The ship kept moving through the fog until the radar showed land ahead. Slowly, dark shapes appeared, cliffs rising out of the water like teeth. The forgotten island was real. As they approached, the waves grew rougher. The island was surrounded by broken rocks and strange coral formations. The air smelled like rot and earth. Birds circled above, making harsh cries that echoed through the fog. They found a small beach and anchored the ship. The sand was black, mixed with ash and small bones. Some bones were from fish, others much larger. Aaron picked one up, thick, curved, with deep bite marks. "These aren't new," he said, "but something big made these." The rest of the team unloaded equipment, cameras, tents, and sample kits. But nobody spoke much. The silence of the island was different, too quiet, like the world itself was holding its breath. While setting up camp, Maya found something half buried in the sand. It was a piece of metal, rusted but engraved with words. Royal Expedition 1892. That was the same year Captain Roland Gray disappeared. Aaron stared at it in disbelief. "He was here," he said. He found this place. Night began to fall. The fog thickened again, crawling inland like smoke. The crew lit lamps, their orange glow flickering in the dark. Somewhere deep in the jungle, something moved, slow and heavy. The sound of branches breaking echoed across the beach. "Probably an animal," Briggs said, trying to sound brave. But his eyes said otherwise. Later that night, Aaron sat alone by the fire, reading the old journal again. The final page was torn, but a few words were still visible. "They are not gone. They sleep beneath the waves, waiting for time to open the door again." He looked up, hearing the waves crash against the rocks. For a moment he thought he saw something move in the water, a fin, or maybe just a shadow. But when he blinked, it was gone, far out at sea under the black water. Something opened its eye, and the island, forgotten for ages, began to wake again. The night on Cala Island was long and restless. The fog still covered the shore like a blanket, and strange sounds came from the jungle. Soft growls, snapping branches, and something that almost sounded like whispering. Dr. Aaron couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the shape they saw under the boat, that massive shadow moving beneath the waves. His mind told him it couldn't be real, but his heart whispered otherwise. Near midnight, Maya joined him by the fire. Her face looked pale in the flickering light. "I can still hear it," she said softly. "Hear what?" Aaron asked. "The water. It sounds alive." They sat in silence for a while. Then something strange happened. The ocean began to glow, a faint greenish light under the surface, as if something deep below was moving through glowing plankton. The light moved slowly, circling the ship. Briggs and the other crew members ran out from their tents. Everyone stood by the shore watching. The water rippled, the glow growing brighter. Suddenly, something big hit the bottom of the ship. Boom! The ship rocked hard. The lamps shook. Maya screamed. "It's under us again." Aaron grabbed the sonar monitor. The screen showed a massive moving shape, bigger than anything they had ever recorded. Long body, huge fins, a tail that curved like a whip. It circled once, then stopped. For a few seconds, everything went silent again. Then a giant wave crashed against the shore, almost knocking everyone down. When the water cleared, they saw something floating near the ship. A piece of wood and a giant bone. Aaron picked it up. It was smooth and heavy with sharp tooth marks. Not fossilized, fresh. His hands trembled. Something bit this. Recently. The next morning, the sky was still gray. The crew decided to explore the nearby coastline for samples. Maya, Aaron, Briggs, and 2 others walked along the beach, scanning the cliffs. The sand was filled with strange fossils, shells the size of shields, teeth like knives, and bones twisted in strange shapes. As they climbed over the rocks, Maya stopped suddenly. "Aaron, look." Half buried in the sand was a giant skull, long and flat with dozens of teeth. It looked like a crocodile's, but much larger. The jawbone was cracked open and deep claw marks covered the skull. Aaron whispered, "It's a mosasaur." But this one was killed by something else. Before they could study it further, the ground began to shake. A low rumble came from the ocean. The water near the shore started bubbling, small at first, then stronger. Bubbles turned to waves. "The sea was boiling! Run!" Briggs shouted. Everyone backed away from the water. A dark shape rose beneath the surface, breaking through with a loud splash. Water sprayed everywhere. The shadow was massive, longer than a bus, its back covered in thick, dark scales. 2 bright eyes glowed under the surface. The creature roared, a deep, echoing sound that made the ground shake. It wasn't a dinosaur or fish. It was something in between, something ancient. Maya fell to her knees, frozen in fear. "It's alive," she whispered. Aaron pulled her back. "Move, go!" They ran toward the cliffs, hiding behind rocks. The creature swam in circles, its tail smashing against the water. Then it dove again, vanishing into the deep sea. The waves slowly calmed. The group sat in shock. No one spoke for several minutes. The only sound was the wind and the beating of their hearts. Briggs finally broke the silence. "We need to leave this island, now." Aaron shook his head. "If we leave, no one will believe us. We need proof." "Proof?" Briggs shouted. "We just saw death itself." But Aaron's curiosity was stronger than his fear. He looked toward the ocean. If that thing survived, what else is down there? That night, they decided to set an underwater camera near the shore. The small device had a red blinking light and a motion sensor. It could record up to 6 hours. They attached it to a rock facing the open sea. Hours passed. The night was quiet, too quiet. The crew waited, watching the live feed on the monitor. For a long time, nothing happened. Just dark water, slow waves, and the sound of the wind. Then, around 3 a.m., something appeared on the screen. First, small fish scattered in all directions. Then a shadow moved across the camera, fast, huge, and silent. The red light flickered. The camera shook violently, then the feed went dark. Everyone jumped up. Maya gasped. It took the camera. Aaron replayed the last few seconds. For one brief moment before the screen turned black, They saw a massive eye looking directly into the lens. The crew didn't sleep that night. The sea was quiet again, but it felt wrong, like the calm before a storm. As the first light of dawn appeared, Aaron stood at the edge of the water, staring into the waves. He felt something strange. The air smelled different, sharp, metallic like blood. He looked down and froze. On the sand near his feet was a huge tooth, longer than his hand, shining wet and fresh. He picked it up slowly. It was warm. He looked at Maya and whispered, "It's hunting again." And from far below the waves a deep sound answered, a low growl that made the ground tremble. Something ancient had awakened. And it wasn't done yet. The next morning the island was covered in a thick fog again. The sea looked calm, but the crew knew the creature was still out there and somewhere below. The air smelled of salt and metal, and the sand was full of strange tracks, too large to belong to any normal animal. Dr. Aaron stood silently near the shore, holding the massive tooth they had found last night. It was heavy, sharp, and still smelled faintly of blood. He turned it in his hand, lost in thought. Maya came up behind him, her face pale. "Do you still think we should stay here?" she asked softly. Aaron didn't answer right away. He looked toward the jungle that covered the island like a green wall. "If we leave now," he said finally, "no one will ever know what we found. We need to understand what this place really is." Captain Briggs disagreed. "This island is cursed," he said. "The sooner we leave, the better." But Aaron was already walking toward the trees. Maya followed him. The rest of the crew had no choice but to join. They hiked through the jungle for hours. The deeper they went, the stranger everything became. The trees were tall and twisted, their roots curling over black stones. The ground was soft, almost like old flesh. And sometimes they found bones half buried in the soil. Not animal bones, but something older and larger. After a few miles, they reached a cliff made of dark volcanic rock. A narrow opening gaped at the base and a cave entrance, cold air flowing from it like a breath. Briggs looked nervous. "That place smells like death." Aaron turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The walls were covered in strange carvings, shapes of huge creatures with teeth and wings drawn in red paint that looked too fresh for its age. Some looked like sea monsters, others like lizards with human faces. Maya touched one of the carvings gently. "These are old," she said. "Very old. Older than humans?" Aaron asked. She nodded. "Maybe." As they went deeper, the tunnel widened. The air grew colder and the sound of dripping water echoed like whispers. The flashlight beams moved across piles of bones. Fish bones, bird bones, and others that looked almost human but larger, thicker. One of the crew members, Leon, picked up a skull. "What kind of creature had teeth like this?" he asked. Aaron took a closer look. The jawbone had sharp fangs curved backward, made for trapping prey. "Something that was never meant to walk this world again," he said quietly. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the tunnel. Everyone froze. It sounded like something big had moved behind them. The flashlight beams shook. The cave went silent again, only the sound of water dripping from the ceiling. "Maybe it was a rock," Maya whispered. Aaron shook his head. "No, that wasn't a rock." They kept walking carefully. The tunnel split into two paths, one leading up, one going deeper down. Aaron chose the lower path. The air there was wet and heavy. Their footsteps echoed like heartbeats. Soon they reached a large open chamber. The roof was high, and in the middle stood a pool of dark water. Around it were giant bones, rib cages as tall as people, skulls with holes cracked open. Maya's voice trembled. "This is a graveyard." Aaron knelt beside one of the skeletons. It looked like the same creature they saw in the sea. Long jaw, sharp teeth, but smaller. Maybe a young one. Maybe dead for centuries. He noticed deep claw marks on the cave floor, fresh ones. "Something was here recently," he said. Then the lights flickered. The air changed and colder, heavier. A low growl rolled through the chamber, deep and wet, coming from somewhere in the dark water. Briggs whispered, "Tell me that's the wind." The surface of the water began to ripple. Bubbles rose. Then a dark shape appeared, slowly lifting from the pool. It was massive, scales glistening, eyes glowing faint yellow in the dark. Its head turned toward them, slow and deliberate. Everyone stepped back, shaking. Aaron raised his light. The creature's face was half flesh, half bone, like it had been sleeping for centuries and never fully died. Its jaw opened, revealing rows of long, thin teeth. Leon screamed. The sound echoed through the cave like thunder. The creature roared in return, a sound that felt alive and ancient. Rocks fell from the ceiling. "Run!" Aaron shouted. They ran back through the tunnel as the creature dragged itself out of the pool, crashing through the rocks. Its claws scraped the walls, sparks flying. The ground shook beneath their feet. Maya tripped, but Aaron grabbed her hand and pulled her up. Behind them, the creature smashed through the narrow passage, roaring again. The air filled with dust and the smell of rot. They reached the surface and burst out of the cave, gasping for air. The sunlight felt unreal after the darkness inside. The jungle birds screamed and flew away. For a long moment, no one spoke. They just stood there, trembling. Briggs was the first to speak. "That thing, it's not from this time." Aaron nodded, breathing heavily. "It's from a time the earth tried to forget." He looked back toward the cave. The ground was cracking and small tremors shook the trees. From deep inside, they could still hear the faint, echoing growl of the beast, angry, trapped, but alive. Maya whispered. It was guarding something. "Did you see the symbols on the walls?" Aaron nodded slowly. "Yes, those weren't warnings. They were seals. We just opened them." The crew turned toward him, fear in their eyes. Aaron looked at the jungle, now strangely quiet. The island itself seemed to be holding its breath again. Something ancient had been disturbed, and whatever they woke up inside that cave was no longer sleeping. The sun was rising over Kala Island, but the light did not bring peace. The ground still trembled softly, and a low rumble echoed from beneath the earth, like something far below was breathing. Dr. Aaron and the others sat near their camp, silent and shaken. The air smelled of smoke and sulfur. Even the birds had stopped singing. It was as if the island itself had gone still, listening. Maya broke the silence first. "We should never have gone inside that cave," she whispered. Aaron didn't look at her. His eyes were fixed on the dark jungle ahead. "We didn't just find bones, Maya," he said. "We found proof. Proof that something ancient still lives here." Captain Briggs spat on the ground. "Proof won't matter if we're all dead." The crew began to argue. Half wanted to leave, half wanted to stay. But Aaron wasn't thinking about escape. His mind was on the carvings they saw inside the cave, the strange shapes and symbols that seemed to move in the torchlight. They didn't look random. They told a story. When the shaking finally stopped, Aaron and Maya decided to return to the cave entrance in daylight. The others stayed behind, too afraid to go back. The jungle was quieter than before. No birds, no insects, only the crunch of their boots and the whisper of wind through the trees. The cave mouth looked the same, dark, silent, but the air around it felt heavier now, almost alive. Maya hesitated. "Do you hear that?" she asked. Aaron listened. At first he heard nothing. Then faintly a sound like whispers. Hundreds of soft voices coming from deep inside the cave. It didn't sound human. He shivered but stepped closer. "Let's record everything this time," he said. They turned on their cameras and walked inside slowly. The carvings on the walls looked different in the daylight, glowing faintly like the stone itself was alive. Aaron touched one symbol, a spiral surrounded by what looked like flames. Maya studied the drawings carefully. "These symbols tell a story," she said. "Look, this one shows a giant creature rising from the sea. Then humans fighting it with fire and traps, and here, they sealed it underground." Aaron's eyes widened. So this island wasn't natural. It was built, a prison. He stepped back, shining his light on the larger wall. The carvings continued, showing other creatures. Flying beasts, giant serpents, and monstrous shapes that looked like nothing from Earth. Maya's voice trembled. They didn't just trap one creature. They trapped many. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the cave. Rocks fell from above. The ground shook again, stronger this time. From the tunnel below came a deep, angry roar that made their bones vibrate. Maya grabbed Aaron's arm. "It's awake!" They ran out of the cave just as the entrance collapsed behind them. Dust and smoke filled the air. The roar continued, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Back at camp, the crew was panicking. The ocean waves were rising higher, crashing violently against the rocks. The sky darkened even though it was still morning. Lightning flashed without thunder. Briggs shouted over the noise, "We have to leave now!" But Aaron wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on the volcano at the island's center. Black smoke was rising from its peak. Maya followed his gaze. The cave. It was connected to that volcano, she said. Maybe that's where the creature came from. Aaron nodded slowly. Or maybe that's where it's going back to. Before they could say more, the ground split open near the beach. Steam and fire burst out. The sea around the island started to bubble again, just like before. The same glowing green light appeared beneath the waves. Then out of the water, something enormous began to rise. The creature from the cave, but larger, stronger. Its body covered in black scales and glowing cracks of red light. Like magma flowed inside it. Its roar shook the sky. The ocean turned wild, everyone froze in fear. Aaron whispered, "It's not just alive. It's angry." The monster turned its head toward the island. Its glowing eyes scanned the jungle, the cliffs, the humans standing frozen in terror. Then, with a slow, dreadful movement, it began to crawl toward land. The crew ran for the higher ground. The creature's tail slammed into the beach, destroying the ship in one strike. Wood and metal scattered everywhere. Their only escape was gone. Maya fell and Aaron pulled her up, both running as fast as they could. The ground behind them burned. Trees caught fire just from the creature's heat. The air was full of ash and screams. They reached the edge of a cliff overlooking the volcano. From there, Aaron could see everything. The Black Sea, the burning jungle, and the monster crawling through it like a living storm. Maya's voice broke. How can something like that exist? Aaron stared at the glowing lines across the creature's body. It's not just flesh, he said. It's energy. It's the Earth's memory. These things are from a time before humans, before history. He looked at the volcano again. If this island was a prison, then the volcano was the lock. And we just broke it. The creature let out another roar, shaking the island. The sound echoed for miles, reaching even the clouds. Aaron knew what that roar meant. It wasn't calling for help. It was calling for others. He turned to Maya, his face pale. If there was one, there might be more. The ground trembled again, stronger than before. The volcano's top exploded with fire and smoke. And from the distance, across the sea, more glowing lights appeared under the water. Dozens of them. The past wasn't sleeping anymore. The past was awake. The sky above Kaala Island turned dark and red, filled with smoke and ash. The ground shook like thunder, and the volcano at the center of the island spat fire into the air. The sea roared, waves crashing violently against the rocks. Dr. Aaron and Maya ran through the burning jungle, branches snapping and trees falling around them. The heat was unbearable, and the sound of the creature's roar followed them everywhere, loud, deep, and endless. Behind them, the others tried to keep up. Captain Briggs stumbled over roots, shouting, "It's right behind us!" Aaron turned for a brief second, and froze. The monster was crashing through the trees, each step shaking the ground. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, and its mouth opened wide, revealing sharp, dripping fangs. "Run faster!" Aaron yelled. They reached a rocky hill and climbed quickly, slipping on the loose stones. Maya's hand burned as she grabbed the hot rock, but she didn't stop. When they reached the top, they could see the whole island. And what they saw made their blood run cold. There wasn't just one creature anymore. From the ocean, more shapes were rising, dark, enormous, and alive. Long fins broke the surface, followed by tails and glowing eyes. At least 4 of them moved toward the shore. The nightmare was spreading. Maya's voice shook. There's more of them. The roar was a signal. It called the others. Aaron looked down at the volcano. Streams of fire flowed down its sides, forming rivers of red. The ground cracked open near the base, releasing bursts of steam and light. "They're coming from underground," he said quietly. "From inside the island." Briggs grabbed his arm. "Then we have to leave." "There's no fighting things like that." Aaron looked at him sadly. "There's nowhere to go. Our ship's gone." The ground shook again, harder this time. A massive tail slammed into the jungle below, sending a wall of dust into the sky. Trees fell like grass. The roar echoed again, rolling through the air like thunder. The crew backed away from the edge of the hill, terrified. The air was thick with heat and smoke. The volcano's firelight flickered across their faces. Then Maya noticed something strange. On the rocks near them there were symbols, the same markings from the cave. But these were glowing red, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Aaron, look," she said, pointing. The same seal marks. He crouched beside them. "They're connected to the island's energy. Maybe this is how the ancients trapped the creatures before." Briggs shook his head. You think drawings on rocks can stop that? He pointed toward the creature now crawling up the hillside, lava dripping from its body. Aaron didn't answer. He pressed his hand against one of the symbols. It was hot, burning, but alive. For a moment he felt something move beneath the surface like power still trapped inside the stone. It's reacting, Maya whispered. The creature roared again, and the rocks cracked. The glowing symbols flickered violently and then went dark. Aaron stood up slowly. It's too weak now. The seal's broken completely. The ground split open beside them and steam exploded upward. Briggs and the others jumped back as the edge of the hill collapsed into the burning jungle below. They ran again, through smoke, fire, and falling ash. The noise of the monsters grew louder. From every direction they could hear them, roaring, smashing, calling to each other. The entire island was alive again. As they reached a small clearing, Maya stopped suddenly. "Aaron," she said, pointing at something half buried under the dirt. It was a metal crate, rusted but still sealed. Aaron wiped off the dust and saw faded letters on its side. Royal Expedition 1892, the same name from Captain Roland Gray's journal. Briggs stared. That's over 100 years old. Aaron forced it open with a rock. Inside were metal tubes, strange crystals, and an old notebook wrapped in leather. He flipped through the pages quickly. The writing was faded, but he could read some of it. The crystals hold the sound that silences them. Only in harmony can they sleep, Maya read over his shoulder. Sound, you mean frequency? Aaron nodded. Yes. Maybe these crystals can create a sound that drives the creatures back. Just like sonar, but stronger. They carried the crate back toward the cliffs where the view of the ocean was clear. In the distance, the creatures were gathering, enormous shadows rising from the sea, moving slowly toward the island. Aaron placed one crystal on the ground and connected it to a portable power unit from their equipment. When he turned the dial, the crystal began to hum, a low, strange sound that made the air vibrate. At first, nothing happened. Then the creature nearest to them stopped moving. Its head twitched. It made a deep, angry roar and started thrashing violently, hitting trees and rocks as if in pain. "It's working," Maya shouted. The other creatures in the distance began reacting too, roaring and diving back into the water. But the closest one, the biggest, was not retreating. It was furious. It turned its glowing eyes toward the hill, toward them. Aaron adjusted the frequency. The sound grew louder, shaking the ground. The creature screamed, a terrible ear-splitting sound, and then charged toward them. "Turn it off," Briggs yelled. "It's coming straight for us." Aaron hesitated. "If we stop, it wins. If we don't, maybe we can drive it back." The monster reached the base of the hill, roaring in rage. Its claws tore through the ground. The sound waves made the air shimmer. The crystal glowed brighter until it cracked. A blinding flash erupted, throwing everyone backward. The crystal shattered into dust. The creature roared again, louder, closer. When the smoke cleared, Aaron opened his eyes slowly. The creature was gone. The jungle was burning. The sea was calm again. Maya sat beside him, shaking. Did we stop it? Aaron looked toward the volcano. Deep inside, he could still hear a low, slow rumble. He shook his head. No, it's not over. That was only one. From far across the water, another roar answered. Deeper, older, and even angrier. The hunt had just begun. Smoke covered the entire island like a dark blanket. The air was thick and hot. The volcano glowed deep red, spitting fire into the sky. The jungle burned quietly in the distance, and everything smelled of ash and fear. Dr. Aaron slowly stood up, his clothes torn and face covered in dust. Maya helped Captain Briggs to his feet. The crystal that had saved them lay shattered on the ground, still faintly glowing. Aaron stared at it. It worked. But only for a moment. Maya nodded. If one crystal could do that, imagine what all of them together could do. Briggs frowned. Do you really think we can stop these things with rocks and noise? Aaron looked toward the volcano. That's where they were born, and that's where we have to end it. The team gathered what was left of their gear and began climbing the blackened slopes of Kayala volcano. Every step was harder than the last. The ground was hot enough to burn their shoes, and the sky flashed with lightning and fire. Halfway up, they passed giant bones, remains of creatures that had once ruled the world. Some looked like dragons, others like enormous lizards with teeth longer than knives. The sight made everyone silent. Maya whispered, "It's like a graveyard for monsters." Aaron replied, "No, it's a doorway." As they climbed higher, the rumbling beneath their feet grew louder. The volcano was alive. They could hear deep growls echoing from inside like something huge breathing slowly. When they reached the crater's edge, they stopped. The view inside froze their hearts. At the bottom of the crater, surrounded by rivers of glowing lava, lay the largest creature they had ever seen. Its skin was dark red, covered in scales thicker than stone. Each breath it took made the lava rise and fall like waves. Its eyes glowed through the smoke, two burning suns staring straight at them. Briggs took a step back. "That thing, it's the king of them all." Ron nodded slowly. The others followed its call. "If we stop it, the rest will fall silent." Maya opened the old journal from the crate and flipped through the pages quickly. "There's something here. 7 crystals, 1 heart. The sound of unity seals the fire." Aaron's eyes widened. 7 crystals. That means there are more hidden on the island. Briggs groaned. "We'll never find them in time." "That monster is waking up." The creature stirred, its massive head lifting slightly. Lava splashed as it moved. The ground trembled, cracks spreading beneath their feet. Aaron thought fast. "The crate we found had 6 crystals left. We have just enough, if we can power them together." They began setting the crystals in a circle near the edge of the crater, connecting them to the power units they had carried. Maya adjusted the frequencies, her hands shaking. Sparks flew as she linked the wires. Briggs kept watch, his rifle useless against something that size. "Hurry, it's moving again." The monster's eyes opened fully now, an enormous, golden alive. It lifted its head and roared, the sound so loud it shattered rocks around them. The volcano shook violently. Aaron shouted, "Start the frequency." Now Maya turned the dial. The crystals began to glow, sending a deep humming sound through the air. The ground vibrated as the sound waves grew stronger, echoing across the crater. The creature stopped for a second. Its roar turned into a painful groan. Lava spilled over as it thrashed in anger. The sky flashed with fire. "Keep it steady," Aaron yelled. The crystals pulsed brighter, beams of white light connecting between them. The air shimmered with power. The humming grew louder, almost like a chorus of voices calling in harmony. Then the monster roared again and struck the ground with its claws. The shockwave broke one of the crystals. Sparks exploded and the sound wavered. Maya screamed, "We're losing power!" Aaron grabbed the broken crystal and held it in his hand. It burned his skin, but he didn't let go. "Redirect it through me. Use the current." Maya hesitated. "It'll kill you." "Just do it." He shouted. She connected the wires. Energy surged through Aaron's body. The light from the crystals flowed through him, bright, white, and blinding. He screamed, but he didn't stop. The humming became a piercing tone, shaking the entire island. The creature roared one last time, louder than ever before, and then its body began to crumble. Its scales cracked, its light faded, and slowly it sank into the lava. The volcano erupted in a massive burst of fire and smoke, then went silent. The sky cleared. The rumbling stopped. Maya ran to Aaron, who had fallen to the ground. He was still breathing, weak but alive. Briggs knelt beside them. "Did we do it?" Aaron opened his eyes slowly and looked toward the crater. The lava had cooled into dark rock. The monster was gone. "Yes," he whispered. "It's over." But then, far out at sea, a low sound rolled across the water. A deep, distant roar. Maya froze. "Another one?" Aaron sat up slowly, staring at the horizon where black clouds were forming again. His voice was quiet but steady. Maybe not all of them were here. Lightning flashed across the sky. The ocean churned violently as something massive moved beneath the waves. Briggs looked pale. "What do we do now?" Aaron stood, still weak but determined. "We go home, and we prepare, because the world must know what's coming." The wind blew across the silent island as the camera slowly pulled away, showing the volcano turned to stone, the jungle burning in the distance and far beyond the horizon, a dark shape moving under the sea. The nightmare wasn't over. It had only begun to wake. The ocean was quiet again, but it was the kind of quiet that felt wrong, like the world was holding its breath. The island of Kala lay behind them, covered in smoke and ash. The volcano no longer glowed, but its silence felt heavy, as if something deep inside it was only sleeping. Dr. Aaron sat in the small rescue boat staring at the horizon. His hands were bandaged, his body weak from the energy of the crystals. Maya sat beside him, tired but alert, scanning the endless gray water. Captain Briggs steered the boat slowly toward the mainland. No one had spoken for hours. Finally, Maya broke the silence. "Do you think it's really over?" Aaron didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed on the sea. "The volcano is silent," he said softly, "but the roar we heard, it wasn't from the island. It came from under the ocean," Briggs sighed. "Then let's hope whatever's down there stays down there." But as they moved farther from Kala Island, the sea began to change. The water grew darker, thicker, almost black. Strange shapes drifted below, long shadows that twisted and moved like they were alive. Maya frowned. "What's that under us?" Aaron leaned over the side, peering into the water. "It's a current, but it's moving the wrong way." Suddenly the boat jerked violently. Something massive had passed beneath them, rocking the vessel. Everyone grabbed on tight. Briggs shouted, "Hold on!" The boat lifted slightly as if riding a wave, but there was no wave. A shadow the size of a ship moved just below the surface, glowing faintly with a red light. Aaron's face went pale. "It's one of them." The creature didn't attack. It moved slowly beneath the boat, its shape impossible to fully see. A long body, fins like wings, and eyes glowing like molten metal. Then it disappeared into the depths, leaving the water still again. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Maya whispered, "It didn't hurt us." "Why?" Aaron looked thoughtful. "Maybe it's not hunting. Maybe it's watching." Briggs gripped the wheel tighter. "Then let's not give it a reason to follow." They sped toward the coast. Hours passed, and the sea finally turned calm again. When they reached the mainland, the sun was rising. Golden light touched the waves, and for the first time in days, it looked peaceful. Rescue teams met them at the shore. Helicopters circled above, reporters shouted questions, and scientists rushed to help them. But Aaron barely heard them. His mind was still on the sound, that low, distant roar that echoed across the sea. At the hospital, Aaron and Maya were treated for burns and exhaustion. Briggs gave his statement to the authorities. The government quickly sealed off Kala Island, calling it a natural disaster zone. But Aaron knew the truth. One evening, weeks later, Maya visited him in the research facility where he was recovering. She brought the old leather journal, the one they had found on the island. She placed it on the table. "You might want to see this," she said quietly. Aaron opened it. Several pages near the back had new ink, fresh writing. But that was impossible. The journal was over 100 years old. The words were written in the same hand as Captain Roland Gray's, but the ink glowed faintly red, like embers. "The seals are broken. The deep ones stir again. The ocean remembers." Aaron's heartbeat quickened. "This wasn't here before." Maya nodded. "I know, I checked it after the explosion. These pages appeared 2 days ago." He looked at her. "That means whatever happened on Kala, it's still connected to something larger." Outside the window, thunder rolled across the ocean. The sky darkened. Rain began to fall heavily. The lights flickered in the room. Then a low sound, deep and distant, rolled through the air, shaking the glass. It wasn't thunder. It was a roar. Maya froze. "That sound? It's the same as before." Aaron stood and walked to the window. Lightning flashed across the sea, and for a split second, he saw it, far out in the dark water. A shape so huge it made the ships near it look like toys. A glowing red eye blinked once, then vanished beneath the waves. Aaron whispered, "They're coming back." The power went out. The room fell silent except for the sound of the rain. Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "If they rise again, humanity won't survive." Aaron closed the journal slowly. "Then we have to find a way to seal them again, before the ocean opens its mouth." In the distance, alarms began to sound, warning sirens along the coast. The news crackled through the emergency speakers. Unusual seismic activity detected beneath the Pacific Ocean. Large disturbances spreading outward. Possible undersea eruption. Aaron looked at Maya. "It's starting." The camera would slowly zoom out, showing the endless dark ocean, lightning flashing across it, waves rising higher and far below, massive shapes stirring in the deep. The same glowing eyes opened, hundreds of them, shining like stars beneath the sea. And from the darkness, the roar returned, deeper, louder, and closer than ever before. The nightmare had not ended. It had only changed its form.